Before he became a symbol of unexpected fortune and southern charm, Jed Clampett was just a name, tucked away in the rural hills of the American South. But behind the lighthearted TV character and the fictional millions was a story far more mysterious, a tale that would one day include an abandoned mansion, a missing fortune, and questions that still echo to this day. Before we dive into video, please subscribe our channel. This is not just about a television icon. This is the story of Jed Clampett's world, a character who became larger than life and whose legacy would blur the line between fiction and reality. Jed Clampett was born into simplicity, a backwoods man raised in the untamed stretches of the Ozarks. In the show The Beverly Hillbillies, we were told he came from a small cabin deep in the hills, where life was hard but honest. The character, portrayed by actor Buddy Ebsen, came to represent a kind of forgotten American, a man of the land who knew little of the outside world but had a heart bigger than Texas. But to understand the myth, we have to start with the roots. The fictional Jed was said to have grown up without modern luxuries, no electricity, no indoor plumbing, and certainly no idea of the millions that lay beneath his feet in the form of oil. His early life was marked by loss. We learn early on that he was widowed and left to raise his daughter, Ellie Mae, on his own. It's this humble beginning that made Jed Clampett one of the most beloved figures in television history. But while audiences laughed and cheered for Jed's sudden rise to wealth, the real story behind the character, and what came after the show ended, is wrapped in mystery. How did the simple man from the hills end up in one of the most extravagant mansions in Beverly Hills? Why was that same mansion later abandoned, falling into decay? And what happened to the fortune and the family he left behind? As we dig deeper into the life of Jed Clampett, both the character and the man behind him, we'll uncover a strange, twisting story full of Hollywood secrets, personal loss, and unanswered questions. But to make sense of it all, we have to go back, way back to where it all began. Because sometimes, to understand the legacy of a man, we have to walk through the dirt roads he once called home. We will explore how Jed's early life led to his first steps toward the American dream, and the moment that changed everything. Long before Jed Clampett struck black gold and packed up his family for Beverly Hills, life was a quiet, hard-earned rhythm in the hills. He was a man shaped by survival, not ambition. A hunter, a trapper, a farmer. Jed did what he had to do to feed his family. Each day brought new challenges, and luxury was a word that never crossed his lips. He had no dreams of riches. His joy came from simpler things: a good meal, time with Ellie Mae, and the loyal company of Duke, his old hound dog. The community around him was small but tightly knit. Everyone knew everyone, and help came not from money, but from hearts willing to give. But then came a turning point, one that would define Jed's destiny forever. The story goes that while hunting on his land, Jed fired his rifle and the bullet struck the ground, releasing a strange, bubbling black liquid. It wasn't water, it wasn't mud, it was oil. That one accidental shot would turn the Clampetts from poor mountaineers into overnight millionaires. But the truth, even in fiction, is never that simple. Behind the camera, the Beverly Hillbillies, showrunners had carefully crafted this storyline to represent the ultimate American fantasy. A rags-to-riches tale that was both humorous and oddly reflective of the nation's fascination with wealth. But off-screen, the journey was not as whimsical. Buddy Ebsen, the actor who played Jed Clampett, had his own story of struggle. Born in 1908 in Belleville, Illinois, Ebsen started his career as a dancer, performing on Broadway and in early Hollywood musicals. At one point, he was even cast as the original Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz. But due to a severe allergic reaction to the aluminum dust in his costume makeup, he was hospitalized and replaced. It was a crushing blow to his career, and one that left him nearly forgotten in the golden age of film. Yet just like Jed, Ebsen didn't give up. He moved to television, taking on smaller roles until 1962, when everything changed. Cast as Jed Clampett, he brought a quiet strength, warmth, and authenticity to the character that viewers immediately connected with. He wasn't just acting, he was channeling years of personal hardship into a role that reflected the very essence of American resilience. And just like that, Jed Clampett was born, not only on the screen, but in the hearts of millions. But sudden fame comes with a price. As the spotlight grew brighter, cracks began to form, both in the lives of the characters and those who played them. In the next chapter, we will witness the Clampetts' transition to Beverly Hills and explore how, Wealth changed everything around them, while perhaps changing nothing within them. From a humble cabin in the hills to the golden gates of Beverly Hills, Jed Clampett's journey captured the imagination of an entire generation. When the Beverly Hillbillies first aired in 1962, it wasn't just a TV show, it became a cultural phenomenon. Audiences across America found something oddly comforting in the Clampetts. They weren't polished, they weren't refined, but they were real. And in a world quickly changing, shaped by war, civil unrest, and shifting values, Jed Clampett became a symbol of honesty, heart, and humor in the face of modern madness. In the show, Jed's sudden oil fortune launched the family into a new life. With $25 million in the bank, they moved into a 35-room mansion in Beverly Hills, bringing their backwoods values with them. The joke was simple but powerful. A family so rich they didn't even realize what they had, navigating a world that was as alien to them as outer space. But what made the show rise to such incredible heights wasn't just the fish-out-of-water comedy. It was Jed himself. Buddy Ebsen's portrayal brought depth to a character that could have easily been reduced to a punchline. Jed wasn't clueless. He was wise in ways money couldn't buy. He saw through pretenses, treated people with respect, and used common sense in a world that often lacked it. By 1963, the Beverly Hillbillies was a national obsession. It quickly topped the Nielsen ratings, becoming the #1 show in America, watched by more than 60 million people every week. At its peak, it even outperformed legendary programs like The Ed Sullivan Show and Bonanza. Jed Clampett had officially become a household name, but with fame came an odd tension, the blending of fiction and reality. To many fans, Jed wasn't just a character, he was a real man. People wrote letters, showed up at the filming studio, and even sent job offers to Mr. Clampett, hoping to work on his oil fields. The line between story and life had vanished. Behind the scenes, the actors were becoming icons, but also feeling the weight of their roles. Buddy Ebsen found it hard to separate himself from Jed Clampett. Despite a long career before the show, he would forever be remembered as the wise, kind, and simple oil millionaire. And as the years passed, something strange began to happen. The fame that lifted the Clampetts also started to shadow them. Mansion became more than a set. It became a symbol, and later, a haunting reminder of what was left behind. Because in the real world, the Beverly Hillbillies' fortune didn't last forever, and neither did the family. Behind the soft-spoken, charm and old-fashioned wisdom of Jed Clampett was a man shaped by love, loss, and loyalty. While the show rarely dug deep into Jed's past, one thing was always clear. His heart belonged to his late wife, Rose Ellen. Though she never appeared on screen, her presence loomed quietly over Jed's life, mentioned with reverence and remembered through the gentle way he raised their daughter, Ellie Mae Clampett. Jed was a widower long before his fortune came. It was clear that he had loved deeply and lost quietly. In many episodes, his voice would soften whenever he mentioned Rose Ellen, hinting at a deep emotional scar that never truly healed. This subtle sorrow made Jed human in a way few sitcom characters ever were. He wasn't chasing wealth or fame. He was simply trying to provide a better life for his daughter. Ellie Mae became his entire world. She wasn't like the other girls in Beverly Hills. Ellie loved animals more than diamonds. She preferred overalls to evening gowns, and Jed never tried to change her. He protected her innocence, encouraged her independence, and refused to let money corrupt who they were at their core. Their bond was unbreakable, father and daughter navigating a glittering world they never asked to be a part of. Off-screen, Buddy Ebsen also experienced the complexities of love and family. He was married 3 times and had 7 children. Despite the demands of Hollywood, he remained a devoted father, often shielding his personal life from public scrutiny. Those who knew him described him as gentle, principled, and quiet, much like the man he portrayed on screen. But not everything in the Clampett world was heartwarming. As the show gained popularity, the cast grew closer, yet tensions sometimes simmered beneath the surface. Rumors swirled about clashes between actors, creative disputes, and the emotional strain of being tied to roles that became bigger than their real identities. And then there was the mansion, the sprawling estate used in the show. Known in real life as the Kirkby Mansion, became a visual anchor of the Clampett lifestyle. But after filming ended, it was left eerily abandoned, as though the laughter had been packed away and replaced with silence. Some said the house was cursed. Others whispered that something was buried there, something more than memories. As Jed Clampett, Buddy Ebsen had built a fictional family the world fell in love with. But behind the screen, love was complicated, relationships were tested, and the weight of fame bore down on everyone involved. Still, the image of Jed holding Ellie Mae's hand, guiding her through a world of excess with humility and grace, remains one of television's most powerful portrayals of single fatherhood. But every story has shadows, and soon, cracks began to appear in the Clampett fortune and in the public image that once seemed untouchable. Fame has two faces. One shines under bright lights, the other hides in long shadows. For Jed Clampett and the man who brought him to life, Buddy Ebsen, those shadows began to grow once the laughter faded and the cameras stopped rolling. At the height of the Beverly Hillbillies, the world saw Jed as a wholesome, grounded man untouched by the greed that often follows sudden wealth. But behind the scenes, the weight of maintaining that image began to take its toll. Buddy Ebsen, once a celebrated Broadway dancer and early Hollywood actor, found himself typecast. Despite decades in the industry and a long resume before the Clampetts, people no longer saw Buddy, they only saw Jed. Studios stopped calling, scripts dried up. The public adored him, but only within the walls of a role he couldn't escape. The character that had made him immortal had also, in many ways, trapped him. And then came the mansion. The Kirkby Mansion in Beverly Hills had become an icon of the show. But after the final season aired in 1971, it became eerily silent. Rumors began to swirl about the estate being cursed, about a hidden vault beneath its floors, and even about Jed Clampett's fortune being real. Of course, these were just stories. Or were they? One strange chapter came in the form of legal disputes. Decades after the show ended, the mansion faced a controversial demolition. Preservationists wanted to save the historic home, but developers had other plans. What haunted people most wasn't the building itself, but what it represented. A golden age of television, a simpler time, a dream that once felt possible. Meanwhile, Ebsen's health began to decline in the 1990s. Though he returned to TV occasionally, even making a cameo in the 1993 Beverly Hillbillies film, his days in the spotlight were mostly behind him. Whispers of depression, isolation, and regrets began to circulate. He had lived a full life, but had he ever truly escaped Jed? There were other controversies too. Some critics called the Beverly Hillbillies rural propaganda, or lowbrow humor. Intellectuals dismissed it, and networks later hesitated to embrace its reruns, fearing it reinforced stereotypes about the American South. Buddy Ebsen defended the show until his last breath. To him, it wasn't about money or sophistication. It was about values, honesty, kindness, and family. And yet, for all its heart, the Clampett legacy was slowly being forgotten. New generations didn't know the story. The mansion stood in silence. The oil dried up, and the laughter that once echoed through American living rooms became a distant memory. But legends never disappear completely. As rumors of an abandoned mansion filled with forgotten treasures surfaced again in the early 2000s, people began asking, what really happened to Jed Clampett's fortune? Did Buddy Ebsen leave behind more than memories? In the next and final chapter, we will explore the legacy of Jed Clampett, his mysterious death, the questions that followed, and the fortune that may have never been found. On July 6, 2003, Buddy Ebsen passed away at the age of 95. To some, it marked the quiet end of a long Hollywood career. But to millions who had grown up watching the Beverly Hillbillies, it felt like the passing of a family member. The final farewell to Jed Clampett. There was no grand media circus, no million-dollar headlines, just a gentle obituary for a man who had once ruled primetime television, and yet his legacy never truly faded. Reruns of the Beverly Hillbillies continued to air in syndication around the world. New audiences discovered Jed's warmth, Ellie Mae innocence, Granny's grit, and Jethro's antics. For many, the Clampetts became more than entertainment. They were a piece of cultural nostalgia, a reminder of when television was simple, good-hearted, and full of life lessons hidden in laughter. But what happened after Buddy Ebsen's death became the stuff of urban legend. Whispers spread about a forgotten vault, possibly hidden in or beneath the Kirkby Mansion. Some believed Buddy had left behind something valuable, handwritten scripts, early recordings, maybe even unpublished memoirs. Others claimed he had written a final letter, one that never saw the light of day, revealing the emotional toll of playing Jed Clampett and the fortune that might never have existed. There were even conspiracy theories. Some believed the mansion was haunted. Others said a portion of the show's royalties had gone missing, never claimed by Ebsen's heirs. In truth, the mansion was sold, then demolished, its legacy wiped clean for new development. But the question lingered. Why did a symbol so iconic, so deeply tied to American pop culture, vanish so quietly? Ebsen's family remained private. His daughter once remarked in an interview, "He was proud of Jed, but he was more proud of the man he became when the cameras stopped." Those closest to him described Buddy as a man who had seen the bright lights of fame, survived its shadows, and ultimately found peace in a life well lived. In recent years, a small but growing group of fans have begun working to preserve Buddy Ebsen's legacy. Online tributes, fan pages, and independent documentaries have reignited interest in the Clampetts. Collectors seek out original props from the show. Young YouTubers analyze its humor and themes. And in a world growing more complicated by the day, Jed Clampett's simplicity feels strangely relevant again. He did not chase money. He did not care for luxury. All he wanted was to protect his family and stay true to his roots. And perhaps that's the final lesson. The real wealth in Jed Clampett's story was never the oil, it was kindness, character, and love. And though the mansion is gone and the actor has long since passed, the spirit of Jed lives on, in the hills, on the screen, and in the hearts of those who still believe in the power of staying humble even when life hands you a fortune.